Dad's mistress gets pregnant. So he reveals his 5-year affair to Mom and ends up shooting himself in the foot. Hey Reddit. I've been sitting on this for a while, and I figured it's finally time to throw it out here. My family situation isn't exactly normal. Let's just say my dad made some choices that completely wrecked everything, and me and my brother got stuck dealing with the fallout. It's messy, dramatic, and yeah, some of it sounds unreal, but trust me, this is exactly how it went down. I'm a 17-year-old guy, and I always knew something was off about my dad. I just couldn't put my finger on it back then. I was maybe 12 when things first started to feel weird. But looking back now, it's obvious. He didn't just work late. He built a whole second life. The excuses were always the same. Gotta stay late at the office, son, or big project. Or boss asked me to cover the weekend shift. My dad worked in sales, not brain surgery, so I don't know what kind of weekend emergencies he thought we'd buy. At first, I didn't question it. You want to believe your dad's just a hard worker, right? You don't immediately assume he's sneaking off with some random woman. But the cracks started showing fast. He missed everything that mattered. My basketball games, half the season, his seat, always empty. Birthdays? He'd call from work, like that somehow made up for not being there. I even remember one night when my bike chain snapped. I waited for him to come home and help me fix it. Instead, he rolled in at midnight with that stupid long day look. By then, Mom had already helped me patch it up. The funny part? He wasn't even slick. Dad started shaving more on weekends. He'd wear cologne just to go to the office. He suddenly cared about his clothes, button-down shirts for a Saturday meeting. Yeah, sure, because every middle-aged guy dresses up to stare at Excel sheets all day. Then there were the receipts. I'd ride in his car sometimes, and you'd see little clues, steakhouse dinners for 2 when Mom had cooked at home, a hotel bar charge from downtown. He'd snatch them out of my hand if I noticed. But I wasn't dumb. By the time I was 14, I already knew enough to call BS. Mom defended him for way too long. She'd say things like, he's under pressure. Give him grace. Or, he's just trying to keep us comfortable. Comfortable? She was the one working double shifts to pay bills, while Dad was working late in Cologne. She aged 5 years in one. She used to be the kind of mom who'd laugh easily, hang out with her sisters, keep the house bright. That stopped. She got tired, stressed, snappy over small things. I think deep down she already knew, but admitting it would have shattered her. Meanwhile, Dad got lazy with his lies. One weekend, he came home saying he'd been swamped at work, with a sunburn. He actually said he got it through the window. I remember standing there, biting my tongue, so I wouldn't laugh in his face. The worst memory, though, that big home basketball game. I was the starting point guard. He promised he'd be there. Said it twice that morning. I looked at the bleachers the whole game, kept scanning for him. Nothing. Just Mom sitting there alone, clapping extra loud like she was trying to fill the empty space. After the game, my buddy's dad slapped me on the back, telling me I played great. My dad's seat stayed cold. That's the kind of thing that burns into your brain. Even when he was home, he wasn't really there. He'd sit at the table scrolling his phone, nodding like he was listening. I'd tell him about school or sports, and you could see his mind was somewhere else. He wasn't just missing physically. He'd already checked out emotionally. I didn't put it all together right away, but by the time I was 15, the pattern was clear. Nobody works late that many nights. Nobody misses birthdays and games unless something else is pulling them away. He was lying to us, straight to our faces. While Mom crumbled, holding everything together, I watched my so-called dad fade further and further out of our lives. At that age, you want your dad to be the guy you look up to. Mine was just a ghost. And every time he bailed, every time he fed us another excuse, the respect meter dropped. What little trust was left was hanging by a thread. And you know what's crazy? Even before I caught him red-handed, even before he admitted anything, I already hated him for it. Not the kind of hate kids feel when they get grounded. I mean real hate. The kind that builds when you watch someone dig their own grave, knowing you'll never see them the same again. Looking back, all the signs were there. Mom exhausted, Dad sneaking around. Me and my brother stuck in the middle pretending not to notice. It wasn't a man working overtime. It was a guy playing house somewhere else while we waited for scraps of his time. I didn't know about Karen yet, but his absence, his lies, his disappearing acts, that was already enough to make me suspicious. The man who was supposed to be our father had already started phasing us out. And trust me, that was just the warm-up. When it finally came out, it wasn't some dramatic movie reveal with tears and hugs. It was messy, loud, and awkward, like watching a drunk guy fall through a table at a wedding. Dad came home one night acting way too calm. He sat us down like he was about to pitch a business idea, not destroy our family. He goes, "I've been seeing someone. It's complicated, but I want you to hear it from me." Complicated. That's the word he used. Complicated. Like forgetting to pay your electric bill is complicated. Not 4 years of cheating while your wife's working herself to death trying to cover for your lies. Mom lost it instantly. Her face went pale, then red, then full-on screaming mode. My brother and I were upstairs, but you could hear everything. She was shouting, "Who is she? How long?" And Dad? He's down there using that fake calm voice. "Don't yell. Let's be mature about this." Which, if you don't know, is cheater language, for I don't want to look bad, even though I'm the one who messed up. Then came the name, Karen. Some woman he met through work. We later found out she was engaged at the time. So not only was my dad a liar, but Karen was just as shady. Two cowards cheating behind everyone's back, building their happy little secret while blowing up two families. The real explosion hit when Karen got pregnant. That's when Dad had to come clean. Because, surprise, you can't hide a baby. Karen's fiancé found out too, and it turned into a chaotic showdown. Mom's screaming in the kitchen. Dad's trying to spin it like it's not as bad as it looks. Karen's fiancé storms in demanding answers. Me and my brother just stood frozen on the stairs, listening to grown adults torch their lives in surround sound. And Karen? She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't crying. She just stood there with this smug look, like she'd won some prize. At one point, she actually looked up at me and my brother and said, "Your dad chose me because I'm better than your mom." Who even says that? Not only are you wrecking someone's marriage, but you're arrogant enough to tell the kids their mother is second-rate? That was the exact moment I decided I hated her guts. Not dislike. Not wish she'd go away. Straight up hate. Then Dad dropped his bomb. He told Mom and us that Karen's baby might be his. You could practically feel the air get sucked out of the house. Mom's face broke in a way I'd never seen before. She was tough, but that line cracked her. My brother clenched his fists, ready to throw them at Dad. And me? I just felt this sinking pit in my stomach. It was like everything I'd suspected was suddenly carved in stone. Later, tests proved it wasn't Dad's kid. You'd think that would have been the one shred of good news in all this. But no, because here's the real kicker. Dad divorced Mom in record time, married Karen, and when her ex signed away his rights, Dad swooped in with a step-parent adoption. He actually went through the courts to make another man's kid officially his. Captain Idiot, pen in hand. That was it. Whatever thin thread of respect I had left for him snapped right there. It wasn't just that he cheated. It wasn't just that he lied for years. He literally picked another man's kid over his own family, adopted it, raised it, put us on the back burner. While parading around with his new perfect little family, me and my brother just stared at each other like, is this real life? It was one thing to screw up and cheat. That alone is unforgivable. But then to double down, bring Karen into our lives, and adopt her kid like we didn't even exist? That felt like replacement-level betrayal, like we were nothing more than practice kids, and Karen's baby was his do-over. Mom tried to stay strong, but you could see how much it wrecked her. She cried in her room when she thought we weren't listening. She stopped eating as much. She lost weight. People at her job whispered about how different she looked. She didn't deserve any of it. And the fact that Dad was out there smiling with Karen while Mom was breaking down made me despise him even more. From then on, our house wasn't really a home anymore. It was just survival mode. Mom grinding away. Me and my brother trying to stay out of trouble as much as we could. And Dad? He was living his second life with Karen. And Karen, she never stopped being smug. She carried herself like she'd won some championship. Like being the woman who destroyed a family made her superior. Every time I saw her face, I remembered her words, "Your dad chose me because I'm better than your mom." That line played in my head on a loop. Karen also had epilepsy, which she never let anyone forget. Anytime things didn't go her way, she'd throw in, "Stress isn't good for me." Like that excused her being toxic. So yeah, that was the moment the respect died. Dad didn't just lose it, he buried it, stomped on it, and lit it on fire. By the end of that mess, I wasn't looking at him like my father anymore, just some selfish guy who threw away his family for a cheap thrill, and then doubled down by raising a kid that wasn't even his. That's when I realized I didn't just lose my dad. I never really had him in the first place. And things were only going to get worse from there. After the whole pregnancy adoption circus, our lives basically split into two completely different worlds, Mom's world and Dad's world. And believe me, Dad's world was a joke. At Mom's place, it was survival mode. She was exhausted all the time, barely holding it together. She started working even more shifts, probably to prove to herself she didn't need him. But you could see the weight crushing her. The spark she used to have was gone. She used to laugh at dumb stuff on TV with us, cook meals that made the house feel like home. Now it was leftovers, bills stacked on the counter, and her sitting at the kitchen table staring off like she was somewhere else. Meanwhile, Dad was playing house with Karen. And Karen, she couldn't help herself. Every time me and my brother got dragged over there for visitation, she found a way to rub salt in it. One night, we're sitting at the dinner table, me, my brother, Dad, Karen, and Karen's baby. Dad's trying so hard to make it feel normal, passing the mashed potatoes like it's some sitcom family scene. And Karen leans over with that smug little smile and goes, "This is a real family now." My brother nearly choked on his food. I slammed my fork down and said, "Yeah, real family. Too bad it's fake." Dad glared at me, "Watch your tone." And Karen smirked, "Don't be mad, sweetie. Your mom couldn't keep him, but I could." That one hit like a punch, even though I didn't show it. My brother muttered, "Screw this," and got up from the table. Dad barked, "Sit back down." But he didn't. He just walked off. That was the vibe every weekend. Forced visits, fake smiles, Karen throwing digs, and Dad pretending we were one big happy family. Except nobody was happy except her. We tried fighting the visits. Mom even went back to court to argue that we shouldn't be forced. Didn't matter. The judge warned her she could be held in contempt. Skip the visits again, and she'd be looking at fines or even custody issues. Like my mom was the criminal here, not the guy who blew up the family. So every other weekend, we got shoved into Dad's world. Karen treated us like unwelcome guests. If we didn't talk to her, she'd pout to Dad. If we did, she twisted our words. She'd say stuff like, "You boys should respect me. I'm your dad's wife now." I'd fire back, "Respect is earned, not handed out like candy." That always set her off. The Betrayal explosion came with my brother. He was 17, only a few months away from being free, but the court still dragged him into visitation. One weekend, he flat out refused to go. He stayed at Mom's, arms crossed, daring Dad to come drag him out. Dad actually called the cops. No joke, a squad car rolled up to the curb while the neighbors peeked through their blinds like it was a crime scene. The officers looked uncomfortable, clearly not wanting to drag a teenager into a car over family drama. One of them walked over and asked, "What's the issue here?" Dad puffed up, "My son is refusing court-ordered visitation." My brother snapped, "I'm not a prisoner. He can't make me go." It turned into this huge standoff. The cop looked awkward, clearly not wanting to force a teenager into a car for something like this. After a long back and forth, my brother finally sighed and got in, just to end it. But the damage was done. Every neighbor on the street saw Dad treating his own son like a criminal just to protect his image. I'll never forget the look on Mom's face when the cop car pulled away. She looked broken, not because of my brother, but because of the humiliation. Dad would rather call law enforcement than admit his kids didn't want to be around him. After that, my respect for him wasn't just gone. It was negative. He wasn't a dad anymore. He was just some entitled guy desperate to look like he was still in control while his life crumbled. Karen, of course, twisted the whole event later. She told us, if you loved your dad, you'd make this easier for him. I shot back, if you loved him, you wouldn't have wrecked his first family. She gasped like I'd slapped her. Dad yelled at me, don't talk to her like that. And I laughed. Actually laughed. Why? You do everything she says anyway. That night, Dad grounded me, took my phone, said I was being disrespectful. But I didn't care. Because every time they tried to play happy family, all I saw was the wreckage they left behind. And all I felt was the slow burn of resentment growing bigger every time Karen opened her mouth. And deep down, I started counting the days until I turned 18. Counting the days until I could finally walk away from their fake little world and never look back. Because if there's one thing I learned in those years, Dad didn't care about love. He cared about control and about how things looked from the outside. And Karen? She cared about winning. And me, my brother, and Mom, we were just the collateral damage. And that wasn't even the worst of it. See? Dad got this bright idea that dragging us to family therapy would magically fix everything. Like one stranger with a clipboard was going to undo years of cheating, lying, and Karen's smug face at the dinner table. He framed it as, we just need to talk it out with a professional. It'll help you kids adjust. Translation. He wanted to polish his image and get someone in a suit to back him up. The first session was awkward. Some middle-aged therapist with glasses sat us in a circle like it was kindergarten story time. Dad sitting tall, arms crossed, trying to look like a concerned parent. Karen's next to him, playing the sad wife act. Me and my brother are across from them, arms folded like we're about to be interrogated. The therapist starts with the basics. So, tell me what brings you here. Karen jumps in before anyone else. The boys don't accept me. I've tried to be loving, but they're hostile. It hurts because I want us to be a family. She even dabbed her eyes with a tissue, fake, crying like she was auditioning for a soap opera. I couldn't help myself. I laughed out loud. My brother elbowed me, but I muttered, hostile? Lady, you told us you're better than our mom. The therapist scribbled something down, glared at me, then turned back to Karen. Thank you for being vulnerable. Yeah, that's how it went. Karen poured her fake tears. Dad nodded along like a bobblehead, and the therapist acted like we were the problem. Then came the bonding activities. Stuff like role-playing family dinners or writing down 3 things you like about each other. I wrote, she leaves when therapy's over. She's not my mom. Blank. My brother wrote, pass. The therapist frowned, like we just kicked his dog. Dad scolded us. You're not taking this seriously. I said, no, you're not taking reality seriously. You want us to play pretend while you two act like saints? And that's when Karen pulled her stunt. Halfway through session 3, she clears her throat and says, actually, there's something I need to bring up. I didn't want to embarrass him, but she reaches into her giant purse, pulls out my backpack, the one I left by the door, and dumps it on the floor. Out rolls a pack of cigarettes and a crumpled $20 bill. Karen gasps, hand on her chest like she's shocked. I found these. I didn't want to believe it, but maybe this is why the boys act out. The therapist leans forward. Is this true? Are you smoking? Stealing money? I stared at the floor for a second, then looked back up at her. I wasn't even mad yet, just stunned. She actually planted evidence in my bag like some low-budget detective show. Dad's face went red. Unbelievable. I knew your attitude was hiding something. I told you this disrespect had to come from somewhere. My brother exploded. That's not his. You think he's dumb enough to leave that in his bag before therapy? But Dad ignored him. He pointed at me. Do you know how much trouble this could cause? You think this makes you look mature? I snapped back. Do you know how dumb you look siding with her? Those aren't mine. Karen chimed in. I didn't want to say anything, but I caught him acting suspicious last weekend. Funny thing, I'd seen her at 7-Eleven the night before, buying the exact same pack. I didn't say a word, just kept it in the back of my head. So when she tried this stunt, I stood up, walked right over to her purse, and yanked out the cigarettes. The receipt was still attached. I slammed it on the table. Suspicious? You bought these yesterday. Nice try. The therapist blinked. Dad grabbed the receipt, read it, and his face drained. Karen stammered, That's not what it looks like. I leaned forward, grinning. What does it look like then, Karen? You trying to frame a 15-year-old so you can play victim harder? Dad still tried to salvage it. Don't talk to her like that. I laughed. Oh, I'll talk however I want. You're pathetic. She lies, and you eat it up like it's gospel. You're not a dad. You're her little puppet. The room went dead silent. My brother smirked, proud. Karen's jaw dropped like she wasn't used to someone calling her out so bluntly. The therapist looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. I grabbed my bag, slung it over my shoulder, and said, I'm done. You can all sit here and play fake family, but I'm not wasting another hour listening to her lies. Then I walked out. No hesitation. No looking back. On the way home, my brother muttered, That was savage. I shrugged. She wanted a scene. I gave her one. That night, Dad texted me paragraphs about how disrespectful I was, how I embarrassed him in front of a professional. I didn't even reply, because at that point, I realized the only thing Karen and Dad wanted was to break me down. They wanted me to care enough to fight for their fake approval, but I wasn't giving them that. If Karen thought she could frame me and win, she was dumber than I thought. And if Dad thought I was going to bow down and play house, he was delusional. All they really showed me was how far they'd go to keep up their little charade. And all it did was make me double down on one thing. I'd never, ever give them the satisfaction of seeing me care. Problem is, Karen wasn't done testing me. If anything, therapy made her worse. She knew she couldn't win me over, so she switched tactics, full-blown queen of the house mode. That first baby wasn't even his. He adopted anyway, trying to play hero. About a year later, Karen got pregnant again. And this time, it looked like Dad really was the father. With her epilepsy, the doctor told her to rest more. In normal families, that probably means chill out, take naps, let your partner pick up the slack. But Karen, she treated it like she'd just been crowned. Suddenly, every tiny thing became our responsibility. And by our, I mean mine. The first stupid order came on a Saturday. I was sitting on the couch, headphones in, scrolling my phone. Karen stretched out in her chair, remote literally 3 inches from her hand. She goes, Can you hand me the remote? I'll look at it then. Look at her. You mean the one touching your arm? She blinks at me, like I'm the crazy one. Yes, that one. I grin. Nah, I think you got it. Her lips tighten. She picks it up herself, clicks the TV on, and mutters just loud enough. So lazy. No wonder your dad's disappointed. That was her game. Act entitled, throw in a jab, then play victim when I push back. Next day, it's water. She's got a full glass sitting on the coffee table, barely touched. She snaps her fingers at me like I'm her butler. Get me some water. I glance at the glass. Pretty sure that's water right there. It's warm. I want fresh. Then walk to the sink. It's 20 steps. Might even count as exercise. She gasps like I just insulted the queen. My brother snorted from the hallway, which only made her madder. Third time, she tells me, check the front door. I heard a noise. She's sitting closest to it, literally 5 feet away. I'm on the opposite end of the room. I say, what's stopping you? You scared of your own doorknob? That's when she blew up. She marched to the kitchen where Dad was, and I heard her whining voice. Your son refuses to help me. He's rude. He doesn't care about me or the baby. I feel unsafe. And here's where Dad lost every ounce of dignity he had left. He storms in like he's about to deliver a TED Talk on discipline. When your stepmother asks for help, you listen. You show respect. I rolled my eyes. Respect? She asked me to hand her the remote sitting in her lap. You're telling me that's respect? Don't talk back, he shouted. I leaned back, smirked. Funny. You didn't show me respect when you ditched my games for 4 years straight. But sure, let's cry about a remote. That was it. He snapped. His hand came down across my face, so fast I didn't even register it until my cheek was stinging and my side hit the ground hard. My brother jumped off the stairs, ready to swing, but I held a hand up. "Don't," I muttered. "Not worth it." Dad's face was red, breathing heavy like he'd just done something noble. Karen stood behind him, arms crossed, smirking like she'd won. She whispered, "See? He needed discipline." That one stung worse than the slap. I went upstairs, shut the door, and just sat on my bed staring at the wall. I wasn't crying, I was boiling. The slap didn't even hurt that much. What hurt was watching him throw away every shred of being a father, just to please her. My brother came in later, pacing. We should have hit him back. He had no right. I shook my head. That's what they want. If I fight back, I'm the violent one. They get to play the victims, not giving them the win. He clenched his jaw, sat down beside me. Neither of us said much after that. The silence said it all. The next day at school, my friend noticed the mark on my face. He asked, "What happened?" I lied and said I got hit in practice. It was easier than explaining my dad chose his mistress over me and then hit me for not fetching a remote. From then on, I avoided that house as much as I could. I stayed late at school, joined random clubs, hung out at fast food places until closing. Anything to cut down time under Karen's roof. A couple of times I even rode home with teammates, told Dad I was working on projects, just so I could walk through that door later and collapse straight into bed without dealing with Karen's commands. But one thing was clear. Karen wasn't just entitled anymore. She had full control over him. She snapped her fingers. He jumped. She cried. He punished us. She lied. He believed her. It wasn't just pathetic. It was dangerous. Because now it wasn't just about making us miserable. It was about power. And Karen had it all. And if I thought things couldn't spiral any further, I was wrong. Because the bruises didn't stay hidden for long. I kept my hoodie on at school, brushing off questions and pretending everything was fine. But moms, they've got X-ray vision when it comes to their kids. Mine caught it at dinner a few nights later. I was reaching across the table for ketchup when my shirt lifted just enough to show the bruise running down my side, dark, ugly, stretched across my ribs like someone had painted it there. Her fork froze midair. "What's that?" I straightened up fast and yanked my shirt down. "Nothing. Practice accident." Took a hard screen. She didn't even blink. Her voice dropped sharp. "Lift your shirt." "Mom, seriously? Now." So I did. Pulled it up halfway, exposing the purple mess across my ribs. Her hand flew to her mouth. She whispered it like saying it too loud might make it worse. "He hit you." I shrugged, trying to downplay it. "It's not a big deal." Her eyes flashed. "Not a big deal? Your father put his hands on you. That's assault, not discipline. Don't you ever minimize that." I muttered. "It's not like he hasn't already picked her over us 100 times. She started pacing, running her hands through her hair. "That woman, she's making him do this." I knew she was toxic, but laying hands on his own son? No. We're not letting this slide. I won't let him ruin you like he ruined me. The very next morning, she was on the phone, first with the school counselor, then child services. She used words I'd only ever heard in TV dramas: mandatory reporting, domestic incident, protective custody if necessary. It felt weird. Part of me wanted to tell her to stop, because I knew how Dad would react. But another part of me, the part that had been slapped, lied to, and mocked by Karen, that part wanted blood. Sure enough, Dad found out. He showed up 2 days later, pounding on the door like he was SWAT. "Mom, open it," arms crossed. He barged in, red-faced. "You told lies about me to the school. You're trying to ruin me." I stepped out from the kitchen, lifting my shirt just enough to flash the bruise. Funny. Doesn't look like a lie to me. Karen slithered in behind him, clutching her belly like she was some fragile saint. "Of course he lied," she said. "Like mother, like son. Always playing victim." That line almost made me laugh. Victim? You literally planted cigarettes in my bag at therapy. You think anyone believes a word you say? Dad jabbed a finger at me. "Don't you disrespect her. She's your stepmother." "She's nothing," I cut him off. She's a homewrecker who bosses me around like I'm her butler. And you? You're her puppet. That's all you are now. The air went dead. Even Karen blinked. Dad clenched his fists, his jaw working like he wanted to hit me again. But before he could, Mom stepped forward with a stack of papers. I already reported it, she said firmly. It's out of my hands. CPS will be in touch. Try touching him again, and it won't just be an investigation. It'll be charges. Dad's face drained. Karen sputtered. This is harassment. Mom cut her off. No, this is called consequences. You think you won, Karen? All you did was show everyone who you really are. Dad tried switching gears, lowering his voice. Let's just sit down. Family dinner. Work this out. I shook my head, smirking. Family dinner? You ditched our family years ago. You traded it for her, and for some kid that isn't even yours. Don't pretend you get to use that word now. Karen sneered. Ungrateful little brat. Your father works harder than you'll ever understand. Yeah, I interrupted. Works hard at lying, cheating, and fetching you whatever you want. Congrats. You trained him well. My brother came downstairs at that point, arms crossed, staring Dad down. He didn't even need to say anything. The look on his face said it all. Done. Finished. Dad looked between us, waiting for someone to back down. Nobody did. Karen tugged his sleeve like she was pulling a leash, whispering something about leaving before it escalated. And for once, he listened to her. They stormed out, the door slamming hard enough to rattle the picture frames. Mom didn't flinch. She turned to us, steady and fierce. You boys are all I care about. Whatever happens next, we'll handle it. He doesn't get to break this family anymore. And for the first time, she looked like herself again. Not beaten down. Not tired. Fierce, like she'd been waiting years to finally fight back. Standing there, ribs aching but heart pounding, I realized the tide had finally turned. And Dad, he had no idea just how done we really were. The report hit him harder than he let on. At first, he tried to act unfazed, like Mom was just being dramatic and nothing would come of it. But when CPS showed up at his doorstep for a welfare check, his perfect little world cracked. I wasn't there, but my brother filled me in. A caseworker sat in his living room asking questions, while Karen stood in the corner clutching her stomach, playing innocent. Dad kept saying it was just discipline. She exaggerated. My son is troubled. The worker apparently raised an eyebrow and wrote things down without saying much. That silence was worse than yelling. Karen tried to jump in. They're brainwashed by their mother. They lie all the time. The worker didn't even look at her, just kept writing. After that visit, Dad changed. Not in the suddenly a good father way. In the paranoid, angry, always watching his back way. He stopped barking orders at me when I came over. Stopped trying to act like king of the castle. Karen still pulled her smug little axe, but you could tell she was rattled. Every time the phone rang, she'd flinch like it was another follow-up call. Word got around, too. Neighbors who saw the cop scene months earlier now saw social workers' cars in his driveway. His whole working family man image was dead. People at his job even started whispering. One of Mom's friends ran into a woman from Dad's office who said, "Is it true he's under investigation?" Yeah, Dad wasn't slick anymore. Meanwhile, life at Mom's house started shifting. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving. She had fight in her again. And then came Mark. Mark wasn't flashy. He wasn't some smooth-talking guy trying to be stepdad of the year. He was just solid. Mom met him through a coworker, and at first, my brother and I rolled our eyes. Another dude sniffing around, great. But when he came over, he didn't push. He shook our hands, asked us about school, actually listened. He didn't sit in Dad's old chair trying to replace him. He sat wherever, like it didn't matter. One night, I caught him helping Mom fix the leaky sink. Dad used to act like plumbing was beneath him, always saying he was too busy to deal with it. Mark just rolled up his sleeves, got under there, and handled it. No drama, no complaints. When it was done, he wiped his hands and joked, "I'm not a handyman, but I try not to flood the kitchen." Mom laughed. I hadn't heard her laugh like that in years. And the thing is, I didn't hate him for it. I actually liked the guy. He wasn't trying to play dad. He was just being decent. Respectful. Something we hadn't seen in forever. Dad hated him, of course. When he found out Mom was seeing someone, he blew up our phones with texts about bad influences and replacing him. I screenshotted one of his rants and sent back, "Relax. You already replaced yourself with Karen years ago." He didn't reply. CPS ended up leaving Dad with a warning and a fat file with his name on it. They didn't suspend visits, but they put him on a short leash. One more incident, and the schedule would get yanked. If he so much as breathed wrong around us, he risked losing visitation. That was all Mom needed. She stopped being scared of his threats. She had the paperwork to back her up now. Karen, on the other hand, started cracking under the pressure. The smug comments got sharper, but they sounded desperate. She'd hiss stuff like, "Your mom's pathetic. You'll see." Or, "Your dad only stays stressed because of you too." I didn't even argue anymore. I'd just laugh. Nothing drives entitled people crazier than realizing their words don't land. By then, my brother was fully no contact. Changed his number, blocked Dad everywhere, never looked back. I wasn't far behind. I still had a few months before turning 18, but I was already counting down the days. Every visit was the same, awkward silence. Dad pretending things weren't falling apart. Karen glaring like I'd stolen her spotlight. But I wasn't bitter anymore. I was done. Because the truth is, they lost. Dad lost the second he chose Karen over us. Karen lost the second she opened her mouth and told me she was better than my mom. They both lost the second they thought adopting another man's kid would erase the ones they already had. Meanwhile, Mom was finding her footing again. With Mark around, the house felt lighter. Not perfect, not like the old days, but stable. And that was enough. So yeah, Dad can keep his fake family. Karen can keep playing queen of the castle. They can keep their paranoia, their lies, their sad little kingdom built on betrayal. Me? I'm moving forward. I'll finish school, get out, and build a life that doesn't include them. I'm not carrying his mistakes with me. I'm not repeating them. And Mom, she deserves Mark. She deserves someone who fixes sinks without complaining, who makes her laugh without effort, who shows up without excuses. As for Dad, he deserves exactly what he's got, a crumbling reputation, an entitled wife who treats him like a servant, and 2 sons who will never call him father again. And honestly, that's the most fitting ending I could have asked for. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube,